Yo, what's up everybody? My name is Moxie Mappy and in this video I'm breaking down Logic Pro's stock compressor. I'm going to show you what every button does, how to use it and when to use it so you can get better results in your next mixes. Let's jump right in. Okay, this is Logic Pro's stock compressor. It can be a bit overwhelming because you can see a lot of knobs, but the main focus are these 6 knobs over here, which is where you can set up the compressor. We have the threshold, ratio, makeup gain, a knee knob, attack and release. So let's start with the threshold. If we set up the threshold over here, the threshold tells the compressor to only start working when the signal gets louder than this level. So imagine if you're singing and your vocal gets louder, the threshold will tell the compressor to start working and bring down the volume back below the threshold. And the lower the threshold, the more signal gets compressed because more of it is now above the line. Next up is the attack, which we can find over here. And the attack controls how quickly the compressor reacts when the signal gets above the threshold. So a fast attack reacts quickly when the signal gets above the threshold, and a slow attack, the compressor waits a bit before reacting when the signal gets past the threshold. You can use this when you're working with drums or with vocals, so it sounds a bit more naturally, or when you want to maintain punch but keep control over the signal. Next to the attack, we can find the release knob over here. And this controls how quickly the compressor stops working after the sound drops below the threshold. So when a signal is below the threshold and you have a fast release, it jumps right back up. And if we have a slow release, it fades more gently back to its normal volume. This can make vocals sound smoother or more natural. And if we have a fast release, it can sound snappy or even a bit choppy. So yeah, a too fast release can sound pumping. And if you use a slow release or stay between it, it can feel gluey, and or maybe it is too soft if you have a too long release. Let's jump on to ratio, which you can find over here. And I'm going to press graph so you can see what the ratio is doing on this box over here. The ratio controls how much of compression happens once the signal passes the threshold. I'm going to show you how this works on the graphic over here. So if we increase the ratio, you'll see that, let's say, the roof of the threshold gets steeper like this, and the more ratio you have, the more flattened out it is. You can also see it as a elastic. So the more ratio, so if you have an elastic, the higher the ratio, the more stretched out the elastic is, and the lower it is, the more the more together your hands are, and the more and the elastic is working not that really hard, if you understand what I'm saying. For vocals, I always stay between 2 and 4 to 1 ratio. A ratio of 2 to 1 means for every 2 dB over the threshold, only 1 gets through, and 4 is even more squashed, and 10 or higher is almost limiting. Next to ratio, we can find the makeup gain. The makeup gain is essentially a gain knob after the compressor hits, because if you're compressing a signal, everything gets lower in volume, and with the makeup gain you bring everything up. You can also find the auto gain over here. I usually leave it off because it tricks my ears a little bit. It sets its works automatically, but I always feel like the volume is louder, so I always keep it off and do the makeup gain by ears with the makeup gain knob. Last is the knee knob, and the knee knob is how the curve is from the ratio and the threshold. I can show you this when you look at this screen again. If I twist this knob, you can see it gets steeper. If I put it on the right, it has a softer knee. A hard knee means that it is a bit more aggressive, and a soft knee is more gently. I usually keep it on 7 and don't really touch this when I open up the compressor. Not even all compressors give you the ability to play with the knee knob. What we also have is auto release. You can find this besides the release knob. Auto release means that the release knob over here is not working and the compressor is doing it automatically. Sometimes this works, sometimes it doesn't. There's nothing wrong with using it or not using it. Here on the right side of the compressor we have a bit more knobs. Let's start on the bottom. This is the mix knob. This is where you can blend the compressed signal with the uncompressed signal. So to the left you only hear the uncompressed signal, and to the right you only hear the compressed signal. If you want to mix both signals, you can play with this knob. This works really cool on drums. If you want to keep a certain amount of dynamic but controlling the dynamics as well, you can play with this. Above here is distortion. This emulates a bit of analog compression. This works really cool if you want to add some type of color on your signal, which works even better if you switch to the different algorithms the Logic Pro compressor has. But I want to talk about that in another video. But yeah, if you want some extra warmth or harmonic distortion or saturation, you can play with this knob. Side note, if you play with this knob though, the compressor also adds a bit of volume. You don't want to trick your ears because louder always sounds better. So if you play with this, jump to the output gain where you can set up the output volume of the compressor after all the processing, and just dial it back a little bit till your volume is the same on the input and on the output. Another knob over here is the limiter. If you want some extra limiting on your compressed signal, maybe the peaks are a bit too high and the compressor doesn't catch those, you can catch those with an additional limiter, and here you can set up the threshold. Here we have sidechain. Sidechain is a bit complex, and I think that is a thing for another video. A really quick explanation is that in this mode the compressor only looks at a certain frequency. So if we set up on here, the compressor only looks at the signal above this frequency. So the compressor ignores everything below 246 Hertz. But if you want more detail on a sidechain compressor, leave it in the comments and I'll make another video about that. Okay, I'm going to show you real quick how I set up the compressor. I'm going to show you this with some overhash. I think with overhash you can hear the best what a compressor does. I'm going to start with the threshold, then I'm going to do the attack and the release. Yeah, let's jump right into it. As you can hear, the compressor reacts now after the signal passes the threshold I set up over here. Now I'm going to do the attack time, and I'm going to set it up really extreme so you can hear the difference, and then I'm going to set it up the way I like to set it up. So as you can hear, the difference between a fast attack and a slow attack is that it sounds really lushy when we set it up slow and all the transients come through, and if we set it up fast time it gets snappy and squashy. So we want to find the sweet spot over there, which is usually on drums between 15 and 30 milliseconds. As you can hear, the drum sounds really snappy now, and a bit too snappy for me. So I'm going to bring back the attack time a bit. Yeah, I think something around here for now. And now we're going to jump on the release so we can find the sweet spot over there. So on the left is a fast release. It sounds really snappy. And on the right, it is a slow release and it will sound lushy again. Yeah, I think something around here. Let's play with the attack time again to see if we can get that better. Okay, I think something around here. I said 15 and 30 and now I'm on 13. So that is fine too with me. Okay, it sounds really squashed right now, so I'm bringing back the threshold so that the compressor only reacts on the snare and on the bigger cymbals at the end of the loop. Yeah, okay, let's see if we're happy with the result. So we're going to bypass the compressor. We probably need to work with the makeup gain, but first let's bypass the compressor. Okay, there's a big volume change, so we need to use the makeup gain to balance the output signal with the input signal. Let's see if we can add some distortion. I like it on soft, but now we need to use the output gain because this reacts after this section over here. So if we change this, it doesn't affect the output gain after the distortion. The best way to describe the difference is that when we bypass the compressor, the signal sounds like this. It is really dynamic and it's moving a lot. And when we enable the compressor, it gets flattened out a bit, but still has some dynamics which goes through because we set up the attack time on 30 milliseconds. So the difference between this is now more like this. That is what you want when you are mixing drums or vocals. You don't want to squash everything, but you want to keep punch. So that is why we set up the attack time to let the transient through, and then you want to bring it back so you have control over the dynamics of your signal. And yeah, and that is the Logic Pro compressor in a nutshell. Start with the threshold, play with the attack knob, play with the release knob till you're happy with the result. The knee knob, use it if you want, don't use it if you don't want to use it. It's not really necessary. Always volume match with your makeup gain or with your output gain if you added some additional distortion. And if you use those right, you have a good compressed signal. I hope this video helped. Hit like, subscribe to the channel, and let me know if you want another video about the sidechain function of this compressor. I'm going to make another video about all these different algorithms to see which algorithm works best. So yeah, I hope to see you on that one or on another video. Peace.